This time last year, Kevin Rudd was Prime Minister and Julia Gillard his apparently loyal deputy. But by week's end, he was gone in a brutal exercise of backroom power that took him, most of his party and all of the nation by surprise. A year on, Labor's still suffering all the same ills, and Foreign Minister Kevin Rudd has not gone gently into the night. As I was going up the stair, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish that man would go away.
The key challenge for all of us is to focus on the future.
That's a big challenge when the past casts such a long shadow. A year on from his execution as Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd haunts the Gillard government. Many of its woes trace their origin to him, and he's totemic of things half done, things poorly done, or things not done at all. Rewind to June 24 last year.
I asked my colleagues to make a leadership change. A change because I believed that a good government was losing its way.
Then there were three issues Julia Gillard said she needed to get on track before calling an election.
My priority, obviously, is to ensure that we deal with the question of the mining tax. It has caused uncertainty. I think that uncertainty has caused anxiety for Australians. I obviously believe Australians want to hear us speak too on what we are doing now to deal with climate change, and we will do that. That they want to hear what we are doing to manage our borders, and I will be speaking about that in the future.
A year on, the mining tax is yet to be ticked off by Parliament and still has vocal opponents.
If there is a High Court challenge from the mining industry, the West Australian Government will most likely intervene in support of that. This mineral resource rent tax is the most clumsy, inept example of public policy I have seen in 20 years.
Labor's border protection woes have grown over the year. The asylum seeker swap deal with Malaysia has been announced but not landed, and it's managed to unite the Greens and the coalition.
This proposal was rightly condemned by the Parliament today, and the Parliament has called on the government to abandon this proposal.
Breaking the people spokeless business model is always controversial, was always going to be. We're always going to get criticism from the left and criticism from the right, but nobody should underestimate our resolve to do it.
And the year saw the government adopt a variety of responses to climate change.
There will be no carbon tax under the government I lead.
Before settling on one that's caused it no end of grief.
A fixed price is effectively like a tax.
The core unanswered question of this government is whether or not it's competent, and its multiple woes have made life very easy for the opposition. Political parties spend a fortune in election campaigns researching and crafting messages like these.
End the waste, we'll stop the taxes, we'll repay the debt and we'll stop the boats.
It's a measure of Labor's fortunes and Tony Abbott's good fortune that he can still run the same lines 10 months on. And during his perpetual campaign, he's come to believe that there is a tectonic shift underway in the electorate, that Labor's blue-collar base is shifting in behind him. But routine demands for an election shifted today. He now wants a plebiscite on a carbon tax.
Plainly, if the government lost this vote, it would be politically impossible for them to go ahead with the carbon tax.
But that rule won't apply to Tony Abbott. If the people voted for a carbon tax, he'd still go to the next election pledging to repeal it.
Tony Abbott has never gotten over his election loss last August. And what we've seen is the longest dummy spit in Australian political history.
I mean, this is an $80 million stunt from Tony Abbott, that's all it is.
It's all academic in any event.
I won't be supporting a plebiscite.
I don't support at all, the Monday surprise that we're seeing played out today. We wouldn't change our national anthem with a Monday surprise. We wouldn't conscript troops with a Monday surprise.
It's just farcical stuff. Expensive, tricky and farcical from Tony Abbott.
Negotiations on a carbon price have been tense as we approach the deadline for a deal, but they're described by participants as constructive, and there is optimism that an agreement will be reached, because both Labor and the Greens know the political stakes of failure are dreadfully high.
We're working to come up with a plan. That's our intention. So I'm an optimist.
And Julia Gillard remains optimistic that in the end her long game will trump Tony Abbott's short game. Both believe in their battle plans and both know the risks. And given what we've witnessed in the last year, only a fool would predict what will happen in the next. One thing only is certain. There are many shots yet to be fired in this war.